It's a day of the week, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for my news radar. But before we get started, if this is your first time on my channel, first off, thanks for stopping by. But second, if you do enjoy this video, consider hitting that like button or subscribing to get more content just like this. Thanks. The Galaxy Z Fold 3 launch is just right around the corner. In fact, the Samsung Unpacked event where they're going to actually announce this thing, which we've already seen a million times, is coming up very soon on the 11th. But before that event happens, we're still somehow getting more leaks of this device. In fact, Phone Arena here has maybe the best look that we've seen yet of one of the big changes from the Z Fold 2 to the Z Fold 3, and that is the under panel camera in the Z Fold 3, because as we all know, the Z Fold 2 still does feature the same hole punch selfie camera on the inside and on the outside, whereas the Z Fold 3 will be having a hole punch camera on the outside with a higher refresh rate screen, but an under display camera on the inside to give you a somewhat more uninterrupted screen experience on the inside. I say somewhat uninterrupted because when you look at these renders, these press renders, you can get an idea of what this under display camera is going to look like. And look, it's not invisible. When you look very closely, what you're going to see there is the fact that the pixels per inch has to drop down pretty significantly in that spot to allow, simply enough, light to pass through it to get to your camera. It's sort of like taking a picture through a screen door. Well, if the holes in that screen door are itty bitty teeny tiny because the PPI is so high, no light's going to be able to pass through and the camera just isn't going to work. So you have to reduce the PPI, thus increasing the holes, the spaces in that screen door to let more light through so that the camera can actually capture the light image and to take a photo. And like I said, you can see it pretty clearly right there. Now, is that less noticeable than something you'd be getting on, a normal device with a straight up hole punch? Yeah, it probably is, and it probably is something that's going to fade out of your mind pretty quickly, because as a lot of us know that have hole punch cameras now, that fades out pretty damn quickly. When you're watching video content or whatever, you kind of stop seeing it relatively quickly, so that, under display, it might be even more difficult to notice after a short amount of time. But we do have some really nice high quality renders of the Z Fold 3, and look, we just know what this thing's going to look like at this point. We have so many good images of exactly what this thing is going to be at this point that it's not even funny. And you can see here that, at a distance and on a black screen, probably not going to be super noticeable, just like it was on the ZTE Axon device that had the first under display camera. Likewise here, you can see that external display is going to be about pretty much exactly the same. The device, physically speaking, really the only major change that we're going to be getting is going to be related to the camera bump in the back. There's not really a whole lot else that's changing. Obviously, like I said, this external display will be jumping up in refresh rate, and you're getting that UDC on the other side. But other than that, physically speaking, not a lot of changes here on the Z Fold 3. Now, obviously, S Pen support is coming as well, because the folding glass is apparently going to be much more durable on the Z Fold 3, which will allow a pen to be able to be stroked across it. All in all, that's what that UDC is going to look like on the Z Fold 3. Sticking with the Android phone market here, if you guys have been seeing Apple's MagSafe, magnetic charging puck, and thinking, boy, I wish I had that on Android. Well, it appears as though that is something that is being worked on by company RealMe, because they do in fact have their own, in testing, magnetic, it's a MagSafe magnetic puck clone. And 9to5 Google here has a video and image of exactly that. It appears to be sitting on some sort of a thing here. I'm not exactly sure. Is the entire thing that large? I guess it is. It's quite thick. It's quite a large puck. So I don't know if this is going to get smaller in testing or what, but you can see here in this video, this individual places this RealMe phone down on that magnetic puck, and it does begin charging. Maybe this thing isn't meant to be carried around. I don't know how strong this magnet's going to be. Obviously, it needs to be thinned down quite a bit if that's the actual thickness. But as you can see here, they're saying that what they're calling the RealMe MagDart is providing 35 watts of power, which, so yeah, is it thicker than what Apple's doing? Sure, but is it charging like twice as fast? Yeah, it seems to be. Pretty interesting. I'm not sure that I really care all that much. To me, wireless charging pad, you set your phone on, is cool. Plugging it in is fine. I don't really know that I need like a middle step between the two, but I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. So let's switch over to Surface Duo news, because that's what I know all of you guys love to hear. We have a couple of small pieces of news here, but some of them are pretty exciting. So let's take care of this one here first. We have the first significant discount of Surface Duo in the UK. Now, this is actually on Microsoft's website. If you're in the UK and you go to buy it from Microsoft, you are going to be seeing this thing now for $679 instead of the $1349 that it was before. So it's about half off of where it has been. So that's great to finally see this hitting Europe, as we've seen prices on Surface Duo on some retailers drop as low as $389, which is just unfathomably cheap for a device that launched at $1,400 1 year ago. But if you're still waiting on Surface Duo and you don't care about Surface Duo 2, or you want to get in early and try this thing out before Duo 2, prices are finally starting to come down in other regions. But speaking of Surface Duo 2, if you tuned into the Windows Central podcast just the other day on July 30th, there were two little bits of news just sort of slipped out there by one Zach Bowden and Daniel Rubino that I feel like maybe deserved a little bit more attention than it got. Maybe that's just me because I'm like scrounging for any little bit of Surface Duo 2 news. I'll throw up some Surface Duo 2 images here for you to ogle while I'm talking about this stuff. But what Zach Bowden said on this podcast, first off, himself and Rubino both iterated that they had both heard that unfortunately Qi wireless charging was not something that they heard was going to be in Surface Duo 2. So that for me is quite disappointing as someone who actually does really enjoy wireless charging. There's a wireless charger right here next to me, and it's got my earbuds sitting on it, charging them up nice and quickly. I love wireless chargers. There's one here, there's one in my living room, there's one next to my bed. I use them a lot. They're great. So not having a proper wireless charger might be a little bit frustrating for some of us. That's a bummer. However, here's some positive news about Surface Duo 2 that they also mentioned on this podcast. Zach said, I think that's about all I can tell you right now about Surface Duo 2, because he knows stuff he can't tell us. And then he smiled and he said, well, I'll tell you this. What he has heard is that the two screens on Surface Duo 2, which you can kind of see part of one right there, are both going to feature a higher refresh rate. So we've heard already that the bezels are going to shrink. They're not going to be gone, okay? There's still going to be bezels on the top and the bottom, but they're going to shrink a bit, which makes the actual the resolution, the aspect ratio taller. It's not shrinking this way, it's just getting taller that way. But now we've heard high refresh rate is coming. Now, do I expect a 120 hertz or 144 hertz? No, and I don't really want that. 90 hertz would be absolutely sufficient. And if you're someone like me and you perceive that difference in refresh rate quite a bit, it's really, really good. When you pick up a phone that isn't high refresh rate and you're used to using a high refresh screen, man, it just feels terrible. It makes phones just feel so much faster by simply having that higher refresh rate. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, refresh rate is basically how often your screen itself refreshes what is on screen. So a standard screen, or the Surface Duo screen, only refreshes 60 times a second. Well, if you go up to 90 or 120, everything just looks that much faster, that much smoother. In fact, if you look at this website, this pretty much tells you in a 60 and down way exactly what I am talking about. So you can see how nice and smooth 60 FPS is versus 30 versus 15. Well, if you go up past 60 to 120 to 90, it's going to look that much smoother. And trust me, it is something that you are going to want. It's something that I am actually quite excited to have heard them say on Windows Central's podcast. I'll put a link to that podcast episode down in the description so you guys can go listen to that yourself. So guys, that is all the news I have for you today. Be sure to check back every Monday and Friday for the next episode of News Radar. Thanks to you guys who have supported me on scaryfloral.com or on Flatter with your monetary donations. It helps me out so much. Thanks a ton for that. Stay tuned for more coverage just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.